church was packed, the air thick with the heavy scent of lilies and candle wax. Every seat was filled with mourners dressed in black, their faces solemn, eyes red from tears they'd been shedding for days. The orchestra played a low, haunting tune, and the priest's voice trembled as he began the eulogy. "We are gathered here to honor the life of Victoria Langley, a woman of immense wealth, unmatched influence, and a heart that touched everyone she met." But as the words washed over the crowd, a man in a janitor's uniform lingered at the back, his mop bucket abandoned, hands trembling. His name was Daniel, and he was just an ordinary janitor in Victoria Langley's towering estate. Yet tonight, he was the only person in the room who knew the truth. Victoria Langley wasn't dead. 3 days ago, Daniel had stumbled upon her in the mansion's secret wing, weak, bruised, and barely conscious. She had been hiding from someone powerful enough to fake her, death and manipulate the media to believe she was gone forever. "If anyone finds me, Daniel, I'm finished," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm that pounded the mansion walls. He had promised her silence and safety, and together they had crafted a plan that would allow her to vanish without a trace. But something went wrong. Someone discovered their hideout, forcing Victoria to escape in the dead of night, leaving Daniel to cover for her disappearance. That's why he was here now, standing at the edge of a ceremony that was about to declare her dead, ready to do the unthinkable. The crowd's collective gasp broke Daniel's thoughts. The priest had lifted a small velvet box and prepared to reveal the urn inside. But Daniel pushed through the nearest pew, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Stop, she's not dead." His voice echoed like a cannon in the sacred hall. Mourners turned in shock, gasps spreading like wildfire. The orchestra faltered and the priest froze mid-sentence. Some people clutched their chests. Others whispered frantically. Security rushed toward him, hands raised, demanding he leave immediately. Daniel didn't budge. He pointed toward the back doors where shadows flickered. "She's out there. She's alive." "Someone wants you to think otherwise." A hush fell, broken only by the creaking of the wooden pews as whispers morphed into chaos. Victoria herself emerged, pale and disheveled, dressed in a simple black hoodie and jeans, her hair a tangled mess. Her entrance was so surreal that a few guests fainted, and the wealthy elites whispered, horrified and confused. Daniel's heart raced as he saw her eyes, alive, terrified and burning with silent gratitude. But before relief could settle, a sharp click of high heels against the marble floor announced the arrival of the person who had orchestrated her disappearance. Celeste Duval, Victoria's most trusted rival and the architect of the death hoax. Celeste's lips curved into a chilling smile. Well, Victoria, you really thought you could hide from me forever?" Daniel instinctively stepped in front of Victoria, though he knew he was no match for someone as cunning and ruthless as Celeste. She lifted a small device, a remote, and the lights flickered. "One wrong move and she truly will be gone," Celeste sneered. Panic surged through the room, but Victoria's eyes locked onto Daniel's. He could feel her silent plea. "Trust me, I know what to do." Daniel nodded slightly, taking a deep breath. If he was going to save her, it had to be now, in front of everyone. With a sudden burst of courage, Daniel lunged toward Celeste, knocking the remote from her hand. The device clattered across the floor, and in the brief distraction, Victoria grabbed a fire extinguisher, wielding it like a weapon. She swung it with precision, shoving Celeste backward. Security, previously frozen, surged forward and restrained her, leaving Victoria standing alone with Daniel in the center of the chaos. Cameras captured every second, and social media erupted instantly. Victoria Langley alive. Janitor saves billionaire. The story went viral within minutes, but Daniel knew this was just the beginning. Celeste would not stop, and now the entire world was watching. But for the first time in days, Victoria allowed herself a flicker of hope. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal battles, media frenzy, and dangerous confrontations. Victoria had returned to her penthouse under heavy guard, with Daniel assigned as her personal assistant, though he preferred to think of himself as her guardian. Every day brought new threats, mysterious packages, shadowy figures lingering outside the building, and phone calls with chilling silences. The authorities were baffled. No one could prove Celeste's involvement, and she was careful enough to remain untouchable through legal loopholes. But Victoria and Daniel were not idle. They devised a plan to gather evidence that would finally expose Celeste and secure Victoria's safety once and for all. It began with Victoria revisiting her estate, the place where she had first vanished. Hidden rooms, secret cameras, and coded journals revealed a network of corruption that Celeste had woven over years. Daniel, who had always underestimated his own intellect, proved to be the perfect ally, able to notice details no one else would, unlocking secret compartments and discovering documents that tied Celeste to countless illegal operations. But the real turning point came unexpectedly. One night, as Victoria reviewed a stack of papers, her phone buzzed with an encrypted message. It contained a single image, a masked figure dragging someone into a black van. Beneath it, in red letters, "This is just the beginning." Victoria froze, the room spinning. Daniel grabbed her hand, steadying her. "We can't let fear control us. We're stronger than they think." She nodded, determination hardening in her gaze. The climax arrived at a high-profile charity gala. Ironically, the very event Celeste had planned to use as her final strike against Victoria. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, the elite dressed in designer gowns and tuxedos, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. Daniel and Victoria had infiltrated the event with a team of trusted allies, prepared to confront Celeste publicly and with undeniable proof of her crimes. As the night unfolded, Celeste approached the stage to give a speech, her eyes gleaming with smug confidence. But before she could utter a word, Victoria stepped onto the stage, her presence commanding attention. She held a folder containing recorded evidence, secret financial statements, and surveillance footage. "Celeste Duval," Victoria's voice echoed through the hall, steady and unwavering. "Your reign of deception ends tonight." The room erupted into chaos as the evidence was revealed on large screens. Security personnel previously loyal to Celeste were stunned into submission. Guests murmured in disbelief as they watched. Footage of her orchestrating illegal operations, manipulating media narratives, and threatening Victoria's life. Celeste's smug smile faltered, replaced by a cold rage that made the air feel electrically charged. She lunged at Victoria, but Daniel intercepted her, his reflexes sharper than anyone anticipated. A scuffle ensued, pushing guests back and sending champagne glasses crashing to the marble floor. Finally, law enforcement, tipped off by Victoria's team, stormed the ballroom and took Celeste into custody. The billionaire elite watched, stunned, as the woman who had terrorized their social sphere was led away in handcuffs. In the aftermath, Victoria regained control of her life and empire, but she was changed. Trust was no longer given lightly, and she relied on Daniel, whose loyalty had saved her not just once but twice. They developed a silent understanding, a bond forged in danger and shared secrecy. The press painted the story as a miracle, a janitor who defied expectations to save a billionaire, a tale of courage and justice prevailing. But beneath the headlines, Daniel and Victoria knew the truth. The world would never fully understand the risks, the nights of fear, and the constant vigilance required to survive a shadow that had once threatened to consume everything. Yet in the quiet moments, when the mansion was empty and the city lights flickered in the distance, Victoria would sit with Daniel, a faint smile crossing her lips. "I thought I was finished," she confessed one evening, voice low. Daniel shrugged, brushing dust from his uniform. "You're not. And you're not alone." The silence that followed was comfortable, heavy with unspoken words and mutual respect. Outside, the wind howled through the streets, a reminder that danger was never far. But for the first time, Victoria felt alive and unbreakable. Months later, Victoria announced a new initiative, a foundation dedicated to exposing corruption and protecting the vulnerable. Naming Daniel its co-founder, it was a bold move, one that made the world watch in awe. She had survived, not just death but betrayal, and now she was ready to fight back against injustice with the ally who had saved her life. Daniel stood by her side during the launch, eyes scanning the crowd for threats but smiling. The bond forged in fear had become an unshakable partnership. And for Victoria, the ultimate lesson was clear. Life could throw shadows that seemed insurmountable, but courage, loyalty, and love, no matter how unlikely, could turn the darkest moments into triumph. The world would remember her resurrection, but Daniel and Victoria knew that the true victory was the unbreakable trust between them, stronger than any threat and unending.